All right, I do want to stay aware of time because I know that's an important element of today's conversation. So we are going to go ahead and get started here. Again, welcome everyone. My name's Anthony Salas, and on behalf of everyone at Welcoming America and Civity, I want to welcome you to today's presentation, Building Relational Infrastructure, an Interactive Conversational Experience. As I said, this is coming to us from our longtime partner, Civity, and we're very excited to be working with them on this today. Before we get started, I want to go over just a few quick housekeeping items with everyone. If you do have any questions as the presentation is going on, definitely keep using that chat area where you're entering your location that you're joining from today. Keep that going there, and we'll keep an eye on it as the presentation goes on. And then you'll get a little bit more information about this in a bit, but we will be moving you into breakout rooms at different times during today's presentation. Our presenters will talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but just know you'll be moving into breakouts and then coming back into the larger room and just kind of work with us as we're going through that. It is a bit of a manual process, so bear with us as we're doing it. If you kind of hear silence, don't worry, we are kind of moving through things, but we will keep you posted on that. All right, so it is now my pleasure to introduce you to our speakers joining from Civity. First, just want to share a little bit about Civity and our partnership that we've had with them. Again, they are a national nonprofit that supports individuals and communities to engage authentically and relationally with others and who are different from them. And again, you're gonna experience that here today. As I said, they have been a longtime partner of Welcoming America's. They've been with us since early 2019. Last fall, Civity selected 4 Welcoming America communities to work with through a very competitive RFP process. And those communities that they did some work with were Allegheny County, Champaign-Urbana, Salt Lake County, and San Jose, City of San Jose. So we're very excited to have them work very specifically with some of our members. And Civity has been working really hard with lead partner organizations in these particular communities to build social muscle by growing and sustaining connections all across differences. Our speakers that are joining us today, again, we're very thrilled to have them joining us today. Malka, Kopell, who is the co-founder and CEO of Civity. Palma, Strand, who is the co-founder and research director. And Reba, who is the project associate. So again, we've got a great lineup coming for you, and we're going to jump into things now, and I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Malka, who is going to start our presentation.
Thank you, Anthony, and hi, everybody. It's great to be here today. Happy Welcoming Week to you all. Anthony, as Anthony says, we've been working with Welcoming America for a while, and we love being a Welcoming America partner. And we've been blessed to have some wonderful partners within the Welcoming America communities. It's been a pleasure to work with them. I'm Malka Kopell, the co-founder and CEO of Civity, and I wanted to also introduce Gina Valeria, who is one of the participants today. She is our communications director, and she will be taking a screenshot or two and doing a little bit of live tweeting. Just wanted to let you know. She will not be recording anything in the breakout groups, however. So what we're going to be talking about today is connection between people. I want to encourage you, because this will be interactive and fun, if you feel comfortable, to keep your video on. And of course, you can take video breaks. We all get tired of our own video, so feel free to rest your eyes and your video. But at least for the interaction, we hope that we will all be able to see each other. You know, in order to practice what we preach, this connection, I just wanted to say a couple of things about myself. why I do the work that I do, which I know is much of the work that many of you on this call do, connecting across difference. So I'm here. I'm in San Francisco today, where I live, and I've lived in the Bay Area for almost 30 years now. When I came here, I should say more than 30 years now. When I came here, I was I'm the daughter of an Indian. My mother's Indian from Calcutta, and my father was white, Jewish. And when I came here in the 60s, I thought that I and my two sisters were the only people who were like us around. And so I have had experience feeling left out, and I've also had experience being welcomed. And I understand what an important experience it is for someone at any age. And that is why I'm proud to do the work that I do and that many of you do to help others feel welcome in community. So today we're here for a Civity conversation experience. I know some of you are interested in getting some actionable strategies that you can use in your own work. We hope that this will provide you a chance to practice some of those. And we want to provide a context for you for why what we do, building relational infrastructure, is so important, and how to do that through these bridging connections through relationships based on respect and empathy. We do that through conversation, so you will be doing that today. And we hope this will help you become more intentional about creating and sustaining the relationships in your own life and in your own work. So we're going to start. I think we have enough people that we can do this in plenary. We're going to do a very quick breakout. Starting with, and Anthony, you can stop the slide share for a moment so that we can all see each other. Thank you. What I'd like you to do, if you feel comfortable, is we're going to go around the virtual room, and I will call on you in the order that I see on this list. And just share your name, your organization if that's relevant, where you're from, and in one sentence or less, something that you do almost every day. So I'll start. Malka, Kopell, Civity, San Francisco. And something that I do almost every day is I call or text my daughter, who's in Montreal. So we'll go around the room here. Starting with Judy.
Hi, I'm Judy Christie. I'm the marketing director for the Akron Area YMCA. And kind of what you do, Malka, I don't actually talk to my daughter, but I do check something called Tiny Beans every day, which is a video little or a photo thing. My first grandson was born in Los Angeles, California in May during the whole COVID. So I get to see an update of him every single day, even though I haven't met him yet. So that's what I do.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy. Angela. You are muted. There you go.
Hello, my name is Angela Love. I am with FIDA Freightliner here in Cincinnati. What I do every day is I exercise every day, and I'm very health conscious. So I work daily to keep that going, and I always find time for it, normally before work. And I believe that it helps me have a great day.
Okay.
And I joined this class. In hopes of bettering the relationships with my customers here at work.
Thank you. All right, Brian, one thing you do almost every day?
One thing that I do almost every day is hit my hot tub at my community pool at 9:30 in the evening. Yes, just to relax and get ready for rest.
And I didn't let you say your name, organization.
No, that's okay. I'm sorry. I've been pulled in multiple directions here today. My name is Brian Piercy Schofield, and I'm the program director for the YMCA in Corona Norco for our childhood education programs.
Thank you. Dee.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dee Daniel Scriven. I work for the Office of Refugee Resettlement. And something that I do almost every day is go on a hike on the mountain that's in my backyard. It's North Temple Mountain here in Colorado.
Nice. All right. Gina.
Two things I can think of. I tell my husband I love him, even though he doesn't need to hear the words. And I call my mom.
Jenny.
Hi everybody, I'm Jenny Desmond and I'm the Director of Development at Intercambio Uniting Communities in Boulder, Colorado. And my 14-year-old is doing high school online. So I sit across from the table every day, from him at the table every day while I work and he does high school.
Angela. Or did I already? I'm sorry. Did I already? Yeah. My list is changing. Okay. Suzette.
Hi, everyone. I'm Suzette Masters. I work at the Center for Inclusion and Belonging at the American Immigration Council. And every day I savor a really, really good cup of coffee.
Great. Susan. And you are muted.
Hi, I'm Susan Clark, Common Knowledge, San Rafael, California. And I too text my daughter every day, but I make sure to include photos of the new puppy.
Jessica.
Hey everybody, my name is Jessica Sarabia. I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And so my current job is not related to new Americans, but I do have a passion for this. And something I do every day is walk my dog in the morning. It calms me and it calms her.
Thank you. Tila.
Hello, Tila Maxwell from Kansas City, Missouri. I am the program director for membership and healthy living at the Linwood YMCA's, which is one of the branches here in the Kansas City Association. And then kind of hence one thing I do every day, because I am a healthy living background director, I do work out every day.
Okay. Keisha.
Hi, I'm Keisha Fields. I work at Johnson County, which is the county government in Iowa City. And yeah, I feel bad. Like everyone's saying some good stuff, and I'm like, I hit the snooze button every day. That is something I am consistent at.
Got it. Thank you. Jordan. Oh, Jordan is still connecting to audio. We'll come back. Sharon.
Hello, it's so nice to be with you guys. I'm on a committee, welcoming committee that the city council just created here in Avondale Estates, Georgia. And it's connected to this larger organization. And I do activist type stuff every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Ayman. And you're muted.
Hey, I'm sorry. I just got on the call late, and I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. If you're comfortable, name, organization, where you are, and something in one sentence or less that you do almost every day.
All right. My name is Ayman Faldl. I live in Augusta, Georgia, and you know, I'm affiliated with a lot of organizations. We did start a welcoming week here in Augusta in 2019, so we're doing it again here 2020. Something I do every day. Wow. Well, primary caregiving for my parent, my mother, and then, you know, getting on the Twitter, I guess, too much. I don't know. All right, that's it.
All right. Thank you. Did I miss anybody? If so, just unmute yourself and tell you and share.
You missed me. My name is
Well,
Reba.
I was going to ask
you. Okay.
Go ahead, Reba.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry for jumping in there. I'm Reba. I'm the project associate at Civity, and I floss my teeth every day.
And Anthony, I'm going to put you on the spot. You're muted there.
And I will, yeah, I was muted. I couldn't get to it. I'm on the spot here. Yeah, so Brian asked me in the chat too. I forgot I'm asking everyone else where they're from, and I didn't share where I am. So I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and something I do every day, I'm going to stick with the theme that I see going here is play with the dog, because it certainly calms me down.
And Palma.
I'm Palma Strand. I'm a co-founder and the research director of Civity. I'm here in Arlington, Virginia. And something that I do almost every day is spend some time outside. I grew up in California, where you can go outside pretty much all year round, except for right now when there are a lot of fires going. And so I go outside almost every day.
Great. Anybody that I missed? I think I got everybody. All right. Thank you all for doing that. So let me tell you why you did that, besides helping everybody meet each other. So if you think of a conversation as an exchange of ideas, I say something, you say something, I say something, you say something. And think of these ideas or thoughts as different levels of intimacy. So let's say on a scale of 1 through 10. 1 maybe is I floss my teeth every day. If you go up the scale, you maybe share more about your family, your pets, things that are important to you, your work. Most of us in this country are at a level of 1 or 2, except for those who are nearest and dearest, right? One way that you can deepen a conversation is if you go up to a slightly higher level of intimacy in your thought, in your idea. Chances are that the response that you get will be at that same level, and because you elicit trust by being a little vulnerable and sharing a little bit something about yourself, and people will reciprocate. It's actually really cool once you start doing this and noticing. It's actually quite amazing what you'll get. And you don't want to go too much. We're talking about the level of 2.5 or 3. You don't want to scare people off, especially people you don't know well. But we are social animals. We are hardwired to connect, and this is what you're doing is you're opening up a space for the other. Any of the levels may feel different to different people, but just being aware of kind of what level you're at and then changing it up a little bit can have quite an effect. It might feel a little risky at first to you. It did to me, but just a little bit. But that's because I'm modeling by taking a risk, a little bit of a risk, and that's how I'm able to open up the space for the other person in the conversation. They will see that I am taking a little bit of a risk, sharing a little bit more about yourself. So, when we talk about connection across difference, or connection at all, one of the most important elements of that is having the intention to make that connection. And that is what this conversation starts with. It starts with the intention. So I'll turn it over to Palma. Talk a little bit more about the why. And Palma, you're muted.
It always helps if you unmute yourself, right? As you probably noticed, Malka started out by talking about why she does what she does, which is sort of getting us to that 2.5, 3 level. And so I'll share with you why I do what I do. I am white. My husband is Black, African American, and my kids are biracial. And so I do this work because for me, connecting with people who are on different, in racially, but different in other ways, is like just an integral part of my life. And I've come to see it as really critical for our communities more broadly, not just my own family. So that's why I do the work that I do. So we're gonna spend a little bit of time here with going through some slides before we get into the kind of breakout rooms and the interactive exercises that are focused on kind of what Civity is about and what these conversations are about. And I'm going to start. I'm queuing up Anthony, who's perfectly on time here. I'm going to start with kind of the why of Civity, which is the 2 slides up, I think. There we go. So many or most of the social challenges that face us today are systemic. This is something we've been hearing a lot this summer. They emerge from patterns and habits that have kind of become baked into the way that we interact with each other collectively. And our society has lots of different ways of identifying groups of people who are, going to be exploited, excluded, or marginalized. We do it by race, by country of origin, by economic status or class, by gender, sexual orientation, and more. And the exploitation, exclusion, and marginalization of people in these groups is at the root of a lot of the entrenched injustice and policy issues that we face, whether it's education, housing, policing and criminal justice, employment, income and wealth, environmental justice, climate change. They're all at the core of all these injustices is this kind of widespread social acceptance that some people really don't matter, or they don't matter as much as other people. And that leads us kind of as a society to accept uneven educational opportunities. We accept enormous inequalities in employment and wealth. We accept the skewed distribution of political power and representation. And, it's almost as if, Anthony, you can go to the next slide. It's almost as if there's we have this phrase, we the people, and it's almost as if there's an asterisk to the phrase, we the people, that an asterisk that sort of says, well, it's we the people, except for those people. And we all sort of somehow know that our social contract doesn't really apply to everybody. And we all kind of know who's excluded. And most of us don't intend to exploit or to exclude or to marginalize people. It's just that things are kind of set up that way. Things are kind of set up so that we don't really see people in certain social situations or social groups. We don't really hear their stories. And Civity is about removing the we the people asterisk. Anthony, next slide. There, it's gone. Civity calls us, all of us who are part of these systems and issues in institutions and communities, to be intentional about seeing and hearing people who are in the kind of asterisk groups. Malka?
So I want to talk a little bit about the what of about how to make this change. First, Civity is a word that we made up, or I should say appropriated from the Latin, to describe this kind of no asterisk culture. A culture of deliberately engaging in relationships of respect and empathy, and particularly those relationships with others who are different. The purpose of Civity is to build relational infrastructure so that we can see everyone in our community as a vital part of the whole. Next slide, please. So what we mean by relational infrastructure is simply positive relationships, particularly between people who are different. And building this infrastructure, a network of relationships, can serve as a foundation. Basically, you're building a foundation for communities to be more just, to be more resilient, and to be more vibrant. And I don't need to tell you this. The idea of relational infrastructure is that we build it. And it's the relationships between us that connect us to the systems that we live in. Next slide, please. So how do we build this relational infrastructure? First of all, relationships. Relationships are foundational to this. The infrastructure is built by us connecting with others. Next slide. And as I've said, the connections across difference are particularly powerful. We all are in a network of relationships, more relationships than we know, really, if we think about it. And many of those relationships are with people who are like us or who we think are like us. Those are sometimes called the bonded relationships. But the relationships with people who are unlike us, different in some way, that what are called the bridging relationships, those are the ones that change communities. Those are the ones that are powerful. Next slide, please. And then by changing the relationships between individuals, there is a ripple effect. Individuals can transform communities because culture, or society, is a complex adaptive system. When you change the relationships within the system, that changes the culture. And then when you change the culture, that can lay the foundation for structural change, policy change, and institutional change. So the relationships between people, going back to the beginning, those are fundamental to all of these changes. At Civity, we focus on the differences that we focus on are the power differences. For example, differences of race, country of origin, economic class. They aren't the only differences, but they are differences that are particularly salient in our society. And also they are the differences, along with some others, that leave people out. And interestingly, we find that many people don't know people or don't know people well across those differences. So by putting people in conversation across those differences can actually make a difference. And this connection across difference doesn't happen automatically. It's not a no-brainer, particularly if we're talking about a connection, an authentic person-to-person connection with these differences on the table. So the differences that we're talking about are often taboo topics. And by making them taboo, it silences the people for whom those differences are important, who those differences are an essential part of their identity. So we like to lift up those differences because they are important, they are real to people, and they are what makes our society vibrant. So in today's session, we'll give you some opportunities to engage relationally with intention, with a partner, and including across those differences. So when we say relationship building, what we're talking about essentially is conversation, which is a basic way that people connect. Some people think of conversations as just talk and are eager to get to the action. But if the work is building relationships, then conversation really is action. Palma.
Great, thank you. Next slide, Anthony. So we talked about the why, the what, and so here we are at the how. We are gonna engage in, this is what we practice, and the skill that we're imparting today is to engage in Civity conversations. Civity conversations are intentional. We already talked about that in the context of the kind of the levels of how intimate you are, being intentional about being present to a certain degree in a conversation. They are authentic. They bring our kind of more of ourselves, our hearts as well as our heads into the conversation. And they put difference on the table. That's where we're kind of headed over the course of this time together today. Next slide, Anthony. And the way we do this is through stories. Stories are really, really powerful in relationship building. Stories reach our heads and our hearts. So they're not just about being up in our heads, they're about connecting to that heart place as well. Storytelling and story listening get us to that 2.5, 3 intentional, authentic level pretty easily and naturally and quickly. And they create a lot of space for respect and empathy, which is what Civity is about. Respect is really seeing people for who they are and acknowledging that they have their own story by hearing that story. And empathy, hearing that story, is not just that they're the whole story of who they are, but that it's just kind of one thread of the infinity of who they are. So engaging in Civity conversations, which is what we're going to give you the opportunity to do, to practice here in a minute, is rewarding because we are, as Malka said, kind of wired to connect. And it's also fun. So it's also, yes, what we as individuals can do to kind of create that relational infrastructure and change the system and the culture, because the system is what all of us do, and what we do ripples out. So conversations equal relationship building, equal creating kind of a Civity relational infrastructure that provides the foundation for inclusion, for belonging, for justice, and for resilience. So, Reba.
Hi, everyone. So how do we engage in Civity conversations? What we're going to have you do is experience an intentional and authentic connection through one-on-one conversation. And I just want to speak a little bit about authenticity. Authenticity is really about connecting what you think with what you feel and who you are. In other words, connecting the head to the heart. And one way to really practice authenticity in a conversational context is through sharing stories. Sharing stories allows us to get to know each other in more complex and integrated ways, and they really open us up to ourselves and to each other in a way that is more genuine and deeper than many of the more transactional and surface level conversations that we engage in on a day-to-day basis. So with that in mind, we are going to move everyone into breakout rooms of pairs, and we ask that everyone tell a short personal story, and we'll put this prompt in the breakout rooms as well. What we'd like you to respond to is, why do I do the work that I do? And I will model very quickly here. I work at Civity, and I came to this work because one of the reasons that I do what I do is I grew up in a sort of unconventional religious community, and I grew up with this very othering mentality. You know, we were better than them. We were us and they were outside of us. And this never quite sat well with me. And as I grew older and moved through the world, I really made an intention to connect with people whose life experience was completely different from mine. And that has been so rich and generative in my personal life. And it's a privilege to get to encourage others to do this work at Civity. So that's just a little bit about why I do what I do, and we encourage you to answer that prompt in whatever way feels comfortable for you. We are going to give you 10 minutes actually in breakout rooms. We'll give you warnings to let you know, not warnings, but just give you a heads up on when we will be returning you to the main room here. But yeah, does anyone have any questions before we move into breakout rooms? All right.
Wait, Reba, I had a question. I apologize if you said it. In that 10 minutes, are we going to do 5 minutes me telling my story, 5 minutes your story,
yes.
3 minutes, and then an exchange? What do you like us to do?
Thank you for clarifying, and I forgot to cover that aspect. Yes, we would we would like you to spend 5 minutes sharing your story and listening as deeply and with as much presence as possible to your partner's story. And then at 5 minutes, please switch, and your person will share their story. And if you have time at the end to comment on each other's stories, we encourage you to do that. But while you're listening, please just listen and receive the gift of someone else's story. And it does look like we have, I'm going to, let me do some rearranging here on the breakout end, and I will be sending you all very shortly to your rooms starting now. So you should be seeing an invitation to join your room, and we'll see you back in 10 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for being game, for doing this conversation exercise with us. We just wanted to give you a chance to share feedback on your experience, and how we want to start that is, if you could please in the chat tell us in 5 words or less how this experience made you feel as a storyteller, a story listener, between the two of you. So yeah, just think about a few words. How did this experience make you feel? I'm going to put this question in the chat as well. So we're seeing some great responses coming in here. Looks like Jessica felt connected, heard, seen. Dee felt nice. It was nice. She felt listened to, connected, easy and welcoming, very comfortable, even though we appear so different in age, race, etc. Often we have more similarities than we see below the surface, and I think that's so true. I've seen a really helpful image that's always stuck in my mind as kind of like the iceberg graphic, where you see like the very top of the iceberg, what's above water is what, you know, external characteristics are visible, and then underneath the surface there are so many other qualities and experiences that we never get to unless we share each other's stories. Looks like Gina wanted to talk more and explore ideas more with your partner, and I know you got kicked out of your breakout room, Gina, so I'm sorry about that. It sounds like Susan felt that she had kindred goals with her partner, and also felt energized, which is great, inspired, connected, brave. It was so comfortable, and I felt like I was talking to a friend. I would love to invite anyone who would like to share on mic about their experience to come on up, and if you want to use the raise hand feature, that way we know who would like to talk. That would be great.
That's in the participant.
Yeah,
icon.
For those who don't know where to find the raise hand feature, if you click the participants button at the bottom, you should be able to see a raise hand button. Jenny, go ahead. We'd love to hear about your experience.
It was really hard for me not to interrupt Jessica and say, tell me more about this. Tell me more about this. Why were you in Syria? When were you there? It was really hard to listen without asking a bunch of questions in the middle. But it was good.
Thank you for sharing that. That's been my experience, and every time I've done this too, it's like you want to engage with them, but it's also like a really good exercise to just sit down and listen. Judy, please tell us about your experience.
Well, it's really funny. I talked to Keisha, and both of us in the comments said we felt comfortable, and I said that was exactly right. I mean, I saw her in the picture. I'm like, okay, I like this woman's look. I loved her look. It's the first time I'm like, okay, I like your whole look, lady. But anyway, so once we broke the ice with that, she's telling me about the work that she did, and I felt like very, very connected to kind of what made her tick, you know. And like I said, her and I could not look or be any more different in appearance and all that, and age and all that. But as we start talking, it's like we had a very shared commonality of, you know, what we're supposed to be doing on this earth. And it was really cool. Yeah, it was really, really nice to speak with her.
I'm so glad you had that experience. And I think that again, this is what happens so often is that, you know, even when we start talking about, as soon as we get into conversation with folks, we begin to quickly realize the ways that we're more connected than we think we are. And we think that telling stories is one of the fastest ways to really get there. Malka or Palma, do you have any final thoughts or reflections?
Well, I encourage you to see how long that took, which was not very long. And so, you know, what we're talking about is doable, you know, in a relatively short period of time. So if those of you who are kind of in the position or maybe thinking about introducing these kinds of opportunities for one-on-ones and meetings that you're at or events that you're doing, it's doable. You can fit it into an agenda.
Great. Well, if there are no other final thoughts, I know we've got more to get to, so I think I'll turn it over to Palma to introduce our next exercise.
Okay, thanks, Reba. So we've done the kind of the intentional part with the levels, and the exercise, the storytelling, why do I do what I do, is the kind of the authenticity part, really connecting with that, who we are and what makes us tick. And now we're going to move to the third kind of part of the Civity conversations that we do, which is really putting difference on the table. And we're going to ask you to tell a personal story, just like you told a personal story about why you do what you do. This one is going to be about being the race or the race that you are, or the country of origin that you're from, or the economic status or class that you are or have been. And for those of us, for those of you, of us who are white from the US and kind of middle class, this might be a story about what it's like to be kind of the norm, or what it's like to be maybe insulated, or to venture out of that insulated bubble a little bit. And I, like Reba, I will start out by kind of modeling that, you know, telling you a little bit about my story about putting difference on the table, and then ask you to go into the breakout rooms again with a different person and do that story yourself. So I grew up, as I said before, I grew up in California. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area in a suburb that was all white. And didn't really, you know, when you're a kid, you don't really think about where you grow up or what the characteristics are. But I also visited a lot, a city that was just the next city over. Actually, I grew up in El Cerrito, for those of you who know that area, and my grandparents lived in Berkeley. And when we visited my grandparents, these are my mother's parents, the neighborhood that they lived in was all Black, except for them. And I remember as a child thinking that, you know, my mother, who had grown up in that neighborhood, was very careful to, you know, we were very respectful and, you know, used our manners with the neighbors who lived near my grandparents. But I also remember, even though there was this very strong message of respect, that we were also never encouraged to like ask questions about why our neighborhood that we lived in was so different from the neighborhood that my grandparents lived in, and what caused, you know, why there were such different neighborhoods. So that there was this element of things that we didn't talk about, even though they were really apparent to a small child, even a small child. So so I'm going to ask you to think about a story, your own story, your experience, again, about being the race that you are, being from the country that you're from, or being from the socioeconomic or economic you know, class or status that you are. Same thing that we did before. I'm going to put you into pairs, different pairs, and one person tell their story and the other person listens, and then switch. Any questions before Reba sends you off into the magic breakout land? Okay, Reba. Well, welcome back, everybody. I hope that this was also a good, powerful experience. And I'd like to start out the same way that we did with the last pair of storytelling, which is just, you know, put a phrase or a few words or a sentence in the chat. You know, how was this experience, and how was it different from the first experience of storytelling? This is a little bit of a bigger risk because I asked you to talk about topics that we ordinarily, you know, kind of shy away from. They're a little bit more sensitive. Both experiences were similar. Got into our roots, wondered why we can't just be the human race. Okay. Anybody want to share with the group? And that would be Jessica.
Hey all, so I really enjoyed Judy's energy, and I have heard stories like hers before, but only on television. So I was appreciative to get a more personal story regarding that. I don't know if Judy feels comfortable for me to share, or I'll just leave it for her to share. But in terms of myself, I was expressing to Judy, you know, I have a problem with labeling because what I was expressing to Judy, you know what, I just call myself a global citizen, and, you know, I go with the flow when people ask me, what are you? You know, I bring a little humor, which is honestly backed up with a little anger of like, what, does it matter? So, so I usually say, well, I'm a human being, and then I get a chuckle. No, but where are you from? So then I know what they mean, but I say, oh yeah, I'm from California originally. No, but where are you really from? And that's where I have like, it's also my issue because I'm trying to figure out where I belong in all the boxes that the American government puts out, and which I don't necessarily, actually, I don't agree with, you know, but the box that I have to check, if they don't have a box that says decline to state, is Latina, which is now Latina X, which is Hispanic. So these are all, some of these are even controversial. So if regarding this issue, I've been asked, like I lived in North Carolina for a stint of 2 years, and I guess to say that this experience, I'll bring it back to this. I have issues with, you know, labeling people colors out of a crayon box, and, you know, I consider myself multicultural and multiracial, especially being from this country, which is not, you know, which is a mixture, and as we say, you know, a salad and a melting pot. So I find it, anybody else find that? I want to hear some insight regarding that.
Thank you. Thank you. I noticed somebody, I can't remember who in the chat, said it's hard sometimes as a white person to think of ourselves as having stories, and one of the things that this putting difference on the table raises is it starts to get us into those power differences, because there are power differences about race, there are power differences about, you know, whether you're from the US or not, there are power differences about you know, what class you were raised or you are, and yet telling people's experiences, their stories, is a way to hear people's own experiences of those, you know, across those power divides. Anybody else want to share with the
Can
group.
I say something?
Yes, Sharon. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I can't find the hand raising thing.
Don't worry about it.
No worry. Well, I was going to say to Jessica that we've been doing a lot of race enlightenment stuff over here in Georgia, and one thing I have learned recently is that we never melted in this country. We've just stayed alienated and isolated from each other. So I don't think it's a melting pot, and never was. That's all.
Well, and maybe the point isn't to melt so that everybody's the same, but for people who are different to be different but connected. And that's really a lot what Civity is about, is to really honor that difference and cherish that difference. And at the same time say, well, we all still need to be connected to each other, and really see those differences rather than kind of pretending they don't exist or papering them over, or just like, I don't even want to think about that. So thank you everybody for taking a risk, because telling those kind of stories can be a little risky. So give yourselves a round of applause for jumping in.
And I just wanted to add a few things. Yeah, so first of all, I wanted to thank Sharon for sharing her story, which we ran out of time to say thank you. So thank you. And, you know, I think that what we hear from after a lot of these putting difference on the table conversations is that, you know, I didn't see the difference because we ended up talking so much about stuff that we had in common. So even if we say, you know, talk about a difference of race, or, you know, a difference of religion, or in some cases, difference of politics, we have had conversations like that. People say that basically the difference didn't stay on the table. And I just wanted to say that is fine. You know, I think that as Palma said, we do want to highlight differences between people because they are real and important and important to people's identity. But that doesn't mean that the difference has to stay on the table as something that is a barrier. And we find, particularly, we do some conversations where we can pair people up who are different from each other, and even in those conversations, the difference sometimes goes away, or the importance, salience of the difference gets minimized.
Can I make a comment?
Well, I actually, Tila had her hand up. Yeah.
I just wanted to make a comment because we talk about the melting pot, but then I just got to find something. It's more like we're a spice rack than a melting pot. Everybody has their own like flavor, distinction, and taste and feel, but you know what I mean? Just like I said, it's not melted to be the same. We have our own individuality. So I would maybe say we're like a spice rack. So I just wanted to say that. Right.
I love that. I love that. All right. Who else? Somebody else was sorry. Thank you.
Suzette. Yeah.
Suzette.
Yeah. Hi. I just wanted to say that I felt very challenged in producing a story. And so I wonder, you know, how one develops a story that feels authentic, because the way you tell the story is very much influenced by what point you're trying to make and what you're choosing to highlight. And so I would love some guidance on how one taps into what is the right story to tell. And I just felt very challenged. I don't do this very often. I don't have, you know, set stories that I can just call upon. So I guess if you have any guidance about that, or what that process is like to develop those stories, I would appreciate that.
That's a great question, and I'll jump in, and then Susan, you have something to add. I think that you know, the differences that we focus on at Civity are differences that kind of are these big social differences that are about race or where people are from or economics, but also religion. You know, Malka mentioned politics, you know, and so so you can actually think, so what are the big differences? And if I'm thinking about, you know, race or religion, like what is my experience being who I am, and developing that story, which again, for people who are like in the dominant group, like if, you know, if it's race, if you're white, or you know, if it's a country of origin, if you're born in the US and are a US citizen, then we tend to not think about that because it's kind of like the norm. And so developing a story, or really reflecting on our own story about what does that mean in this country, is really challenging. And it's at the same time kind of worth thinking about, because to the extent that those stories of people who are kind of in the dominant groups become stories rather than just the norm, then they kind of are on an equal footing with people, with other people's stories. So I think it's an important exercise to go through. Susan, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, well, I thank you. I just find Suzette's question really helpful, and Palma, in what you just shared, is you use and I found that I'm sorry, I'm going to actually mute but just talk because sometimes that helps.
What you just said.
All right. So the idea about your life experience, because sometimes the word story gets a performative aspect, or I've got to polish it, or I got to tell it well. I'm actually not a great storyteller. But Brian created a space safe enough for me to share something from my family history where we thought, you know, the storyline was this, and then I discovered something contradictory. The family members didn't want to talk about it. It wasn't like it was all packaged as a story. My life experience reflecting on race that I'm still chewing on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, you know, another way to invite people into the story is just say, what's something from your lived experience? It doesn't have, in fact, it's better if it's not all tied up with a bow. It's kind of what you're chewing on, something you've noticed. So I don't know if that helps, Suzette, because I too sometimes get stumped because the word story has been hijacked by a lot of people, and it's all, you know, pretty and packaged. And we're trying to make sense of this stuff together.
Susan, that's a great comment. Thank you so much because I have that same like story thing too. It's like, oh, I'm not really one of those like raconteur storyteller types. But you're right. We all, you know, it is really about talking about our lived experiences, and particularly our lived experiences that we are, you know, that touched us at some level that we're really grappling with. So thank you. That's really helpful. I just want to make sure that we have time to do a little bit of wrapping up. So thank you all for this part. And Malka, I'm going to hand it back to you.
All right, thank you, Palma. And yeah, thank you all for taking part in this and for thinking about it. So I just wanted to leave a little bit of time. We have a few minutes for you to think about, maybe share some thoughts about how what we did today, what we call the conversation before the conversation, might be useful to you in your work. Maybe you've already been doing something like this. Other ways you've been creating relational infrastructure, helping people connect across difference. Wanted to give you all a chance to share some thoughts and if you have any questions as well. So you can do that in the chat, or you can raise your hand, actually either using the raise hand function or just raise it. And we have a few minutes left. And some thank yous. You know, and you know, this is what I found for myself is that, you know, once I started thinking about my power as a relational person, and we all have this power to to see people, to try to see people as they are, to reach out, to connect. It's been very, you know, it's made me feel really good, you know, that it is, you know, we are talking about something that we all have the power to do, and you know, we all have relationships that we can, you know, strengthen or continue to be someone who reaches out and who listens. This is something that is absolutely, you know, it's part of a fundamental part of a huge change, but this part is absolutely within our control. And I wanted to leave you with this. You know, you guys are powerful. We all are, and we can make this change. You can do it in your work, you can do it in your life. If you change and see people in the world as they are and try to, and help others do that, you know, that changes culture. Anybody want to? Hi, Christina.
Welcome.
Anybody want to share anything before we let you all go? Jessica?
Yes, I just wanted to thank you because this allowed me to self-reflect as well, and even to, I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable here, to see my own prejudices, you know, my own prejudging on people, and hoping that soon, very, very soon, we'll have even hundreds of participants for such a progressive seminar, webinar like this, presentation like this. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll turn it back to Anthony.
Excellent. Well, I gotta say, this has been amazing. I want to thank Palma, Reba, and Malka on behalf of everyone that's attended today. I think just listening to what everyone has shared and kind of putting yourself out there, you know, this is risky. And it's an uncomfortable thing to do sometimes, and especially now. I think we're living in times where, you know, we can be a little hesitant to share truly from the heart. But it sounds like everyone did that, and you know what? Within 2 10-minute breakout sessions, it looks like some incredible connections were made, and I think that just speaks to the power of just speaking authentically and being open. So thank you to the three of you for leading this conversation today, and hopefully we can all keep it going. So thank you. As we wind up, just a couple of quick reminders. So this is being recorded. I'm going to send a follow-up email tomorrow. Give me a little time to edit the recording and get it all cleaned up, and I'll share this with you so you all can revisit everything again. And as everyone knows, it's Welcoming Week. We are smack dab in the middle of it. There's a lot of great events happening out there. Obviously this year, a lot of them are virtual. So if you haven't already done so, go to the Welcoming Week events page. You can go to the site that's on the screen right now and hopefully find some that are happening that are of interest to you. There are still some happening in person too that are taking the social distancing guidelines into consideration. So if something's happening near you, check it out, support Welcoming Week, and we really appreciate that. So again, thank you to Palma, Reba, and Malka from Civity, and thank you all for joining us today. Look forward to hopefully continuing the conversations like this. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.